Hello, boys and girls. I'm back with another language arts video. So we've been studying working on the historical fiction project. So now we move on to part 3. Just to review, part 1 and 2, you had chosen 2 books from Get Epic, and you did some stop and jots on the characters, the setting, and the plot. Now what we're going to do is take one of those books that you've been reading from Get Epic and focus on descriptions, conflict, and dialogue. We'll talk more about this on Tuesday when we have our lesson, but just to give you some information, in this assignment, you're going to think of 5 descriptions that would best help explain the important parts of your story. Now, the descriptions could be about the setting, it could be about the characters, it could be about major events. But you want to focus on like your top 5 that really help the reader or someone who wanted to read your story understand a little bit more about what it was about. The main conflict is the problem the character faces, and how is the conflict solved? So I want you to try to think of 3 details that focus on the main problem and how the character deals with it and what was the solution to it. And then dialogue. That's where the characters are talking. I want you to find 2 examples of powerful dialogue that will be important to understanding the story. So I'm going to use the story that we've been reading, When Girls Ruled Baseball. So I would type the title of my my story or book here. And you can easily make this bigger by highlighting it and adjusting the size here. Perfect. So when I go back to my story, I want to think of descriptions, okay? And what you want to do is you want to look at the story that you're reading. So I know this story is about during World War II when women had to, stepped up and helped with the war effort. But it also highlighted a women's league that started, and the story is focused on a character named Georgia who loves baseball and is very good at it, but she lives during a time when women were not given the same opportunities as men. So one of the things that I could focus on in my descriptions is that Georgia's constantly playing baseball with her friends. I noticed that. Even in the first scene, takes place in a small town in upstate New York. I can type that she's constantly playing baseball, loves baseball. So I would write in my descriptions, Georgia and I would say she's the main character. Loves to play baseball. But lives in a time when girls weren't expected to play sports. Now that's a description that I want to include because that's important to understanding the story based on what we talked about last week. Okay, so that's one description. So I can come up with 4 more. So I go back to my story and I'm looking for other examples of important descriptions. And when descriptions means you want to really describe the major like events or details that stand out. Even right here, the historian too says in the 1940s, women did not have the same opportunities as men. Women could not play on professional sports teams, and it was very difficult for female athletes like Georgia to be taken seriously. So that's something else I want to say, because in the story, her dad and her brother do not take her seriously. That's why the dad gets upset the brother gets upset when he finds out that Georgia has her Joe DiMaggio mitt. So I want to put here, girls like Georgia did not have the same opportunities as men. And I would put maybe something like uh, Georgia's brother, her brother and father did not like that she played baseball. They actually thought it was weird and not becoming of a girl. All right. And you have to constantly go back. That's one of the things about when you read and you're doing jots. See, we read the story, we're familiar with it, but now I need to go back and really look for important information that's going to help me. Other descriptions. So another major description, you have Mr. Wrigley. He's the one that came up with the idea. And one of the things, reason why he came up with playing the baseball there for women, wasn't so much that he wanted to give women an equal opportunity, but he thought it would cheer people up. It says right here, President Roosevelt himself told us baseball is important for Americans. We need something to cheer about these days. So even though they started this league for women, it wasn't to give them equal rights necessarily. It was more about cheering the nation up. So I would say Mr. Wrigley starts the baseball league for women to cheer up the nation during war. That's kind of important. During the war. We're talking about World War II. So that's just an example. Now, I want you to pick 5. I stopped at 3 just to give you an idea. But you want to go back and find descriptions to help. Now, the conflict is the major problem. The major problem that Georgia faces is that she wants to play baseball in a time when, like I said, it wasn't expected that women would play. And she's given an opportunity when she's approached by 2 scouts. So if I go back to the story, these 2 scouts, Mr. Larkin and Joe McDonald, come and offer her a shot to try out for the team, try out for the women's league. And they even tell her it's an opportunity of a lifetime. So I would say she wants to join the league, but her father is resistant to it, doesn't want her to play. So I would say Georgia wants to play So you always want to start with what the character wants. For the new women's baseball league, but her father doesn't approve at all. He actually becomes very condescending and kind of scoffs and says, "Women playing baseball?" And I would say that her dad scoffs and laughs at the idea. Makes her feel really bad. So bad that she, if you remember, she went to her bedroom with a headache. Now, how is it solved? Her mom, oops, didn't want to do that. Let's undo that. Remember, any mistakes, you can always undo it. Now, the mom, however, reminds the dad that women are important too, or have been important. In the war effort. And because of that, she convinces dad him to let Georgia play, which is exactly what happens. And there's more I could say, but that's kind of the idea of what you want to give a general idea of how the conflict was solved. The more details, the better, guys. And then lastly, the dialogue. So, one thing good about a play is that all this is dialogue. Anytime the characters talk, it's all dialogue. In your book, you can look for quotes. So anything that the character says, but you don't want to just pick any quote. You want to pick ones that really stand out. I would focus on the dad in the beginning. Nobody wants to watch girls try to play baseball. I thought that quote was important because it shows the attitude of the time. So I would put nobody wants to see girls play baseball. And I would put his name, Mr. George's dad, I would put. Because that shows the attitude of the time. And it feeds into the problem. So that's why I chose that one. Because I thought that was important. And I would say this shows the attitude many people not so much the attitude, the beliefs. Let's change attitude. Beliefs. Many people had at the time. And that's just one example. You're going to give two. But that's an idea of what I'm talking about. You pick a quote or a dialogue that shows something relevant to the story or the setting. not just any dialogue. It has to make sense. It has to really give an idea of what was happening during this time. So this was a longer video, but I want you to have a reference point. I will post this example with the assignment so you can see what it looks like. And good luck. All right. See you soon, boys and girls. Bye.